My name is Cassandra Mitchell, though everyone calls me Cassie, and I'm 32 years old. Right now, I'm standing in a lawyer's office in downtown Portland, my hands trembling so violently I have to clasp them together to keep anyone from noticing. The words I just heard can't be real. They simply cannot be real. My parents left everything to my sister, Bethany. The family home worth over $1 million. The investment portfolio totaling $800,000, the shares in the family business. Every single thing goes to her. And me? I get absolutely nothing. Before we dive into how I ended up here, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. If this story resonates with you or you've experienced family betrayal, hit that like button and subscribe, because you're going to want to hear how this unfolds. Trust me, what happens next will shock you. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I always knew Bethany was the favorite, but I never imagined it would come to this. From the time she could walk, my younger sister was treated like royalty in our household. She got ballet lessons at the most expensive studio in the city, private school tuition that cost more than some people's annual salary, and when college rolled around, our parents paid every penny for her to attend a prestigious university. Meanwhile, I was told from age 15 that I needed to be independent and self-sufficient. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through community college, spending my nights waitressing at a diner, my weekends cleaning houses, and whatever hours remained stocking shelves at a grocery store. When I graduated with my associate degree in nursing, exhausted but proud, I thought maybe my parents would finally see my worth. They didn't attend my graduation ceremony because Bethany had a sorority formal the same weekend, and of course, that took priority. Our parents built a successful marketing firm from the ground up. My father Gerald started it in his 30s, and when he married my mother Diane, she helped expand it into one of the most respected agencies in the Pacific Northwest. After Bethany graduated from college, they brought her into the business immediately and gave her a vice president title despite the fact that she had 0 experience and barely showed up for work most days. I chose nursing instead, driven by a genuine desire to help people, to make a difference in ways that mattered to me. My parents dismissed my career choice as not ambitious enough, as if saving lives was somehow less valuable than selling advertising campaigns. I remember my father's words when I told him I'd been accepted into the nursing program. Well, at least you'll be able to support yourself doing something. Not congratulations, not pride, just a backhanded acknowledgement that I had achieved the bare minimum in his eyes. The real test of family loyalty came 3 years ago when my mother was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. The news devastated all of us, but the response from my sister and me couldn't have been more different. Bethany claimed she was too busy with work to help with the day-to-day care, too overwhelmed by the emotional weight of it all. So I stepped up. I reduced my hours at the hospital where I worked, sacrificing income and career advancement opportunities to become our mother's primary caregiver. I drove her to chemotherapy appointments, held her hair back when she vomited from the treatments, changed her sheets when she was too weak to do it herself, and sat with her through the long, terrifying nights when she was convinced she wouldn't see another sunrise. During those endless months, my parents kept telling me not to worry about money, that they appreciated everything I was doing, and that they would make it right. I believed them. I trusted that my sacrifice meant something, that they saw my devotion and love. My mother passed away 8 months ago on a rainy Tuesday morning. I was holding her hand when she took her final breath. 6 months later, my father suffered a massive heart attack and died before the ambulance could reach him. In both cases, I handled all the funeral arrangements while drowning in grief. I picked out caskets, wrote obituaries, organized memorial services, and greeted mourners while my heart shattered into smaller and smaller pieces. Bethany showed up to both funerals in designer black dresses that cost more than my monthly rent, dabbing at her eyes with monogrammed handkerchiefs and accepting condolences from relatives, as if she had been the devoted daughter who sacrificed everything. She even gave a eulogy at my father's service, talking about all the things we had done for our parents, plural, as if she had been there through any of it. The lawyer's office smells like old books and expensive wood polish. Harrison Webb, the estate attorney my parents hired decades ago, sits behind an imposing mahogany desk wearing a gray suit and an expression of professional sympathy that I now realize masks discomfort. Bethany sits across from me in a cream-colored chair, her legs crossed elegantly, her manicured nails drumming lightly on the armrest. She's 29 now, polished and poised in ways I never managed to be, and as Harrison begins reading the formal language of the will, I notice she's not surprised by anything he says. She already knows. Of course, she knows. Harrison clears his throat and continues methodically through the document. The family home, that beautiful 4-bedroom craftsman in the prestigious Alameda neighborhood where we grew up, where I learned to ride a bike in the driveway and where Mom planted roses every spring, goes entirely to Bethany. The investment portfolio and retirement accounts, totaling approximately $800,000 that my parents spent 35 years building, goes entirely to Bethany. The 30% share in the family business that each of my parents owned, making her the majority shareholder overnight, goes entirely to Bethany. Their vehicles, a restored vintage Mercedes, and a practical SUV, go to Bethany. My mother's jewelry collection, including her grandmother's engagement ring that I always believed would be mine someday, goes to Bethany. Even the art collection my parents spent years curating, pieces that hung on our walls throughout my childhood, everything goes to my sister. Then Harrison reaches the section about me, and his voice falters slightly before he forces himself to continue. We leave our daughter Cassandra nothing, as she has made clear she prefers independence and has chosen a path separate from family values and expectations. The words hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. There's more. There's always more. Bethany has always honored family values and understood what truly matters. She has remained committed to the family business and demonstrated the responsibility and judgment we hoped to see in both our children. The implication is clear and cruel. I am being punished, not just excluded but explicitly told that I failed as a daughter, that my choices were wrong, that I was never good enough. My hands start shaking so badly that I have to grip the arms of my chair to steady myself. My vision blurs as tears threaten, but I refuse to let them fall. Not here, not in front of Bethany. I glance at my sister and catch something in her expression that makes my blood run cold. For just a moment, before she rearranges her features into a mask of sympathetic shock, I see it. Satisfaction. Cold, calculated satisfaction. "Oh, Cassie," she says, her voice dripping with false concern. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea they felt this way about your choices. This must be such a shock for you." But her eyes tell a different story. Her eyes are flat and calculating, triumphant in a way that makes me realize this moment didn't surprise her at all. Harrison mentions that the will was updated and finalized 1 year ago, during a brief period when my mother's cancer was in remission and both parents seemed to be doing better. 1 year ago, I feel something click into place in my memory. That was exactly when Bethany suddenly started visiting our parents more frequently, making special trips to have private conversations with them, closing doors when I arrived home from work, those hushed discussions I wasn't invited to join, those knowing looks exchanged between the three of them when I walked into a room. Suddenly all of it takes on a sinister new meaning. The documents Harrison slides across the desk show both my parents' signatures, properly witnessed and notarized, legally unassailable in their clarity and intent. I somehow manage to stand on legs that feel like they might give out at any moment. I mumble something about needing air and stumble toward the door. Behind me, Bethany calls out in that artificially sweet voice she uses when she wants to sound caring. "Cassie, wait, let's have dinner soon, okay? We need to stick together. We're still sisters, no matter what." The words make my stomach turn. I don't respond, just push through the heavy door and out into the hallway. I take the elevator down to the parking garage in a daze, my mind unable to fully process what just happened. When I reach my beat-up Honda Civic, The one I bought used 5 years ago and have kept running through sheer determination and YouTube repair videos. I finally let myself break down. I sit in the driver's seat and sob. Deep, wrenching cries that echo off the concrete walls of the garage. Mourning not just my parents' deaths but the relationship I thought we had, the love I believed existed, the future I imagined where my sacrifices would mean something. 2 weeks crawl by in a fog of grief and confusion. I go through the motions at work, putting on scrubs and showing up for my shifts at the hospital, but my mind is elsewhere. Patients speak to me and I have to ask them to repeat themselves. My coworkers notice something is wrong, but most are too polite to pry. Except for Marissa Torres, my best friend and fellow nurse, who finally corners me in the break room after I nearly give a patient the wrong medication because I can't focus on anything beyond the constant loop of questions in my head. Why didn't they love me? What did I do wrong? How could they erase me so completely? Marissa listens to the whole story, her dark eyes flashing with anger on my behalf. And when I finish, she says something that changes everything. Cassie. Something about this stinks. Your parents weren't cruel people. Something happened to change their minds, and I bet your sister is right in the middle of it. The thought takes root in my mind and grows like a stubborn weed. Marissa is right. Despite their favoritism, my parents were never vindictive. They were flawed and blind to their own biases, but they weren't hateful. I decide I need to see the house one more time, to collect a few personal items and maybe find some answers. I call Bethany and ask if I can stop by to pick up some old photographs and books from my childhood. She makes me wait 3 days before agreeing, and when she finally does, her voice on the phone is clipped and impatient. Fine, but make it quick. I have a realtor coming by for a showing. The words stop me cold. A showing? I repeat. You're selling the house already? She laughs, a brittle sound with no warmth. Of course, I'm selling it. It's a valuable asset and I have no interest in living in some outdated family museum. The market is hot right now and I'd be stupid not to capitalize on it. I arrive at the house that raised me feeling like a stranger. Bethany changed the locks within a week of the will reading, which means I can't use the key I've had since I was 16. I stand on the front porch where I used to sit and read on summer evenings, and I have to ring the doorbell like a guest. Bethany takes her time answering, and when she finally opens the door she's dressed in expensive athleisure wear and holding her phone, clearly in the middle of something more important than my visit. You have 20 minutes, she says without preamble. I have an appointment at 3. She walks away before I can respond, already talking into her phone about property values and staging recommendations. I move through the house collecting small things that hold memories. A photo album from my grandmother, a leather-bound collection of poetry my mother gave me when I graduated high school, a ceramic figurine of a horse I made in middle school art class. The house feels empty already, stripped of the warmth I remember. Many of my mother's personal touches are gone, replaced with neutral decor that Bethany must have hired someone to install. As I'm gathering my things, I hear Bethany on the phone in another room, her voice animated as she discusses square footage and asking prices. I glance down the hallway toward my father's study, the door slightly ajar, and something pulls me toward it. The study looks mostly untouched, still filled with my father's books and files. I tell myself I'm just looking for any photos of me that might be tucked away, but I'm searching for something more. Answers. Proof that I'm not crazy, that I didn't imagine a lifetime of moments that should have mattered. I open drawers carefully, listening for Bethany's footsteps. In the bottom drawer of his desk, hidden beneath folders of old tax returns, I find my mother's personal journal. My hands tremble as I open it. The entries from her illness make me cry. Cassandra is such a comfort during this difficult time. She gave up so much to care for me, and I don't know what I would do without her. And later, I need to make sure Cassie is properly taken care of. She deserves everything for her selflessness and love. But then the tone shifts dramatically. About 1 year before my mother's death, the entries change. Bethany helped me see things more clearly today. I was being manipulated without realizing it. My breath catches. Cassandra only helped me because she expected to be rewarded with inheritance. Bethany showed me text messages where Cassandra complained bitterly about having to care for me, calling it a burden and resenting every moment. I never sent any such texts. I never felt that way. I search my memory desperately, trying to think if I ever vented to anyone in writing. But I know I didn't. This is a lie, a fabrication, but my mother believed it. The journal shows her growing distrust of me, her increasing reliance on Bethany's interpretation of events, her conviction that I was playing some long game to secure my inheritance. I grab my phone and frantically photograph every page, my heart pounding so hard I'm afraid I'll have a panic attack right here in my father's study. I'm so focused on documenting the journal that I almost miss the folder marked estate planning tucked behind a row of books. Inside are earlier drafts of the will, dated 2 years ago, showing the estate split equally between me and Bethany. Amendments and notes are scrawled in the margins in handwriting that isn't my father's careful script or my mother's looping cursive. It's Bethany's sharp, efficient print. She was literally rewriting their intentions right in front of them. "What the hell are you doing?" Bethany's voice cracks like a whip from the doorway. I spin around, phone still in hand, journal open on the desk. Her face goes from shock to rage in seconds. "You're going through private documents? That's theft, Cassie. That's illegal." I stand my ground, surprising both of us. These are our parents' things, and I have every right to understand what happened to them. She stalks toward me, snatching the journal from the desk. "You have no rights here. This is my house. These are my things now, and you're trespassing." Her voice rises to a shout. "Get out before I call the police and have you arrested." I grab my small box of personal items and push past her, but I can't leave without saying what I'm thinking. "You did this. You manipulated them. You fabricated evidence and turned them against me." Bethany's laugh is cold and sharp. "Prove it." "Oh wait, you can't, because there's nothing to prove. They saw you for what you really are. A martyr complex with a nursing degree. Always playing the victim while I actually contributed to the family legacy." Her words are designed to wound, and they do. But they also confirm what I suspected. This wasn't just inheritance greed. This was calculated, deliberate sabotage. As I walk to my car, Bethany shouts after me from the porch. "You were always so busy playing the suffering saint that you never saw what was happening right under your nose. That's not my fault. That's yours." I meet with a lawyer the next day. Someone Marissa's cousin recommended named Monica Hayes. She's in her 40s with sharp eyes and an air of competence that immediately makes me feel like maybe I'm not completely powerless. I spread out everything I have on her conference table. The journal photographs, the will drafts, the timeline of events, bank statements I kept copies of when I had medical power of attorney for my parents. Monica studies it all carefully, making notes, asking clarifying questions. And when she finally looks up, her expression is serious. This could be elder manipulation, which would invalidate the will. But I need to be honest with you, Cassie. Proving it is extremely difficult. We need concrete evidence that your sister had both the motive and the means to unduly influence your parents' decisions, and that their mental capacity was compromised enough that they couldn't see they were being manipulated. The legal fees are daunting, but Monica agrees to work on a partial contingency, meaning if we win, she takes a percentage of whatever I recover. It's a risk for both of us, but I can't let this go. I start digging deeper into my parents' financial records. What I find makes me sick. During the last year of their lives, there were massive cash withdrawals from their accounts, totaling over $125,000. When I trace where the money went, I discover my parents paid off Bethany's credit card debt, a staggering $85,000 that she'd apparently run up on luxury purchases and trips. They also gave her $200,000 for the down payment on her luxury condo downtown, the same condo where she's living now rent-free in a building with a gym and a rooftop deck, while I'm struggling to pay rent on my modest apartment. Marissa helps me interview people who knew my parents, their neighbors and friends, anyone who might have observed what was happening during that final year. Dorothy Palmer, a 74-year-old widow who lived next door to my parents for 20 years, invites me over for tea and tells me things that make the picture even clearer. Your sister visited a lot that last year, dear, but it was always when you weren't there. She seemed to time her arrivals for when your car was gone. She'd stay for hours with your parents behind closed doors, and a few times I saw her leaving with papers and files. Dorothy pauses, stirring sugar into her cup. Your mother seemed different after those visits. More confused, more agitated. She said some strange things to me toward the end. I visit Father Vincent at the church my parents attended for decades. Has a kind man in his 60s who presided over both funerals, and he welcomes me into his office with genuine warmth. When I explain why I'm there, his face grows troubled. Your mother's mental state concerned me in those final months, he admits. She came to confession once and said you'd stolen money from her, that you'd been lying to her about medical treatments to keep her dependent on you. I was shocked because that didn't sound like the Cassie I'd known since you were a child. When I gently questioned her about it the next week, she couldn't remember saying any such thing and seemed genuinely confused that I'd bring it up. He leans forward, his eyes sad. Someone was planting ideas in her head, ideas that didn't stick because they weren't true, but in her vulnerable state she couldn't distinguish between real memories and suggestions. Then the third attack comes, swift and vicious. A thick manila envelope arrives at my apartment with no return address. Inside are surveillance-style photographs of me leaving a downtown bar with Marcus, a male colleague from the hospital. The photos are date-stamped to times when I was supposedly caring for my mother. The images are deliberately misleading, cropped and angled to suggest something inappropriate, when in reality Marcus and I had grabbed a quick drink after a particularly brutal shift because we both needed to decompress. We talked for 45 minutes about work stress and then went our separate ways. But the photos make it look like something else entirely. And I realize with growing horror that these must be what Bethany showed my parents. She hired someone to follow me, to document any moment that could be twisted into a narrative of neglect and deception. She built a case against me like a prosecutor preparing for trial, and my parents were the jury she needed to convince. Marissa becomes my rock during this nightmare. She helps me organize evidence, accompanies me to meetings with Monica, and reminds me to eat when I forget for days at a time. She's the sister Bethany never was, chosen family proving stronger than blood. But I need more than moral support. I need people who can testify to what really happened. People with credibility, and nothing to gain from helping me. That's when Wesley Grant contacts me. Hes 56, balding, wearing wire-rimmed glasses and an expression of deep concern when we meet at a coffee shop far from the family business offices. Wesley has been the company accountant for 15 years, trusted completely by my parents. And what he tells me confirms my worst fears. Something isn't right with the company books, Wesley says quietly, glancing around to make sure no one is listening. Since your parents passed and Bethany took full control, there have been irregularities I can't ignore. Falsified expense reports, payments to vendors that don't exist, ghost employees on the payroll whose paychecks get deposited into accounts I can't trace. He slides a folder across the table. I've been documenting everything because I know your parents would want the truth to come out. Bethany has embezzled at least $200,000 in the 6 months since she inherited the business. She's bleeding it dry, and if it continues, the company your parents spent their lives building will collapse within a year. Monica and I develop our legal strategy. We're filing a formal challenge to the will based on undue influence and diminished mental capacity. We have the journal showing the shift in my mother's perceptions. We have witness testimony about her confusion. We have financial records proving Bethany was extracting money from my parents while simultaneously poisoning them against me. And now we have evidence of her criminal behavior after their deaths. It's not a guaranteed win, but it's a fighting chance. We file the challenge and wait for the response. It comes faster and harder than I expected. 4 days after we file, Im called into the hospital administrator's office. My supervisor looks uncomfortable, and the HR representative won't meet my eyes. They inform me that a serious complaint has been filed against me, alleging that I stole prescription pain medication while caring for my mother, that I used my medical knowledge to access drugs illegally, and that my conduct raises questions about my fitness to practice nursing. I'm suspended immediately pending a full investigation. My nursing license, the career I worked so hard to build, the identity I've claimed since I was 20 years old, everything is suddenly at risk. I know without being told that Bethany is behind this. She's not just fighting my legal challenge. She's trying to destroy me completely. The hospital investigation is humiliating and thorough. They audit every medication I've ever handled, interview my coworkers, examine my mother's medical records from her final months. I sit through interrogations where I'm treated like a criminal, where my integrity is questioned by people who've worked alongside me for years. The whispers start immediately. Colleagues who used to have lunch with me suddenly find excuses to be busy. I see the doubt in their eyes, the way they watch me now with suspicion. Even if I'm cleared, the stain of accusation will linger. Bethany's smear campaign expands beyond the hospital. She calls every member of our extended family and paints me as unstable, greedy, and delusional. The family group chat, which used to share birthday wishes and holiday plans, explodes with messages condemning me. Uncle Raymond, my father's older brother, writes a long message about how disappointed he is in my behavior, how I should be ashamed for attacking Bethany when she's trying to honor our parents' wishes. Cousins I grew up with side with her without hearing my story. Aunts who held me as a baby tell me I'm being selfish and bitter. One by one, every family connection is severed, and I'm left completely isolated. I sit on the floor of my apartment unable to eat or sleep, staring at my phone as message after message comes through. Each one another relationship destroyed. Marissa finds me there and physically hauls me up, forcing me to shower and eat something. You can't let her win like this, she says fiercely. She wants you to give up. Don't give her what she wants. But I'm so tired. I'm so tired of fighting, of being the strong one, of standing alone against an entire family who believes I'm the villain. For the first time, I seriously consider dropping the legal challenge, walking away, and trying to rebuild some kind of life from the ashes. The fifth attack comes through my mailbox. It's an eviction notice, official and legally binding. I read it 3 times before my brain accepts what it says. The building where I've lived for 4 years has been purchased by a limited liability company, and the new owners are choosing not to renew any current leases. I have 30 days to vacate. It takes me 2 hours of research to trace the LLC back to its owner, Bethany. She bought the building specifically to evict me. The cruelty of it takes my breath away. She has millions now. A business, properties, everything our parents built, and she's using those resources to make me homeless. The thought of her sitting in that luxury condo, planning each move to dismantle my life piece by piece, fills me with a rage so pure it frightens me. My savings are nearly gone, drained by legal fees and the loss of income during my suspension. I have 30 days to find a new apartment in a city where rents have skyrocketed, with no current income and a pending investigation that makes me a liability to potential landlords. Marissa offers me her spare room without hesitation, and I accept because I have no other choice. I pack my belongings into boxes, surrendering the small space that was mine, the independence I valued so much, and I move into Marissa's 2-bedroom apartment feeling like a charity case. The hospital investigation finally concludes after 3 weeks that feel like 3 years. They find no evidence of theft, no discrepancies in medication records, nothing to support the allegations. I'm cleared and allowed to return to work, but the damage is done. My reputation is tarnished. Colleagues still look at me differently. Patients who specifically requested me before now ask for other nurses. I return to shifts that feel hollow. going through motions in a career that used to bring me purpose and joy. Then comes the sixth attack. And this one breaks something in me. I'm scrolling through social media when I see Bethany's post. It's a series of photos showing the demolition of our childhood home. The developers she sold it to are tearing it down to build luxury condos on the lot. I see the wrecking ball swinging through the roof where my bedroom used to be. The walls crumbling where family photos once hung. The garden where my mother grew roses reduced to dirt and rubble. Bethany's caption reads, "Out with the old, in with the new." Excited for this new chapter and all the possibilities ahead. She's celebrating the destruction of every physical memory of our childhood, erasing the past as if it means nothing. I have a panic attack right there in Marissa's living room, my chest constricting, my vision tunneling, convinced I'm dying. Marissa talks me through it, her voice steady and calm. But afterwards I lie on the couch feeling completely defeated. Monica calls that evening with bad news. The depositions aren't going well, she admits. We have good evidence, but the judge is skeptical about proving undue influence without expert medical testimony about your mother's mental state, and we're having trouble finding a doctor willing to make that determination posthumously. I need you to prepare for the possibility that we might not win this. The betrayals from family members continue. Cousin Stephanie, who I was close to growing up, who I considered a friend and confidant, testifies in her deposition that I always seemed resentful of Bethany's success. She describes me as bitter and jealous, painting a picture of someone who spent years nursing grudges and waiting for a chance to strike back. None of it is true, but she says it under oath with conviction. Then Judith, a woman who my parents considered a close friend, claims in her deposition that I neglected my mother's care toward the end. That she visited the house and found my mother alone and uncomfortable while I was supposedly out enjoying myself. More lies. More carefully constructed fabrications designed to paint me as unworthy and cruel. For the second time, I come close to giving up entirely. I sit with Monica in her office and tell her maybe we should drop the lawsuit. What's the point? I ask, my voice hollow. Everyone believes her. Every single person who matters has chosen her side. Even if we win some financial settlement, I'll never get back what really matters. I'll never have a family again. Monica lets me talk, lets me spiral, and then she says something that changes my perspective. Wesley found something else. Something big, has been digging deeper into the financial records, and he thinks he has proof of conspiracy. Don't give up yet, Cassie. Not yet. Wesley's discovery arrives via encrypted email. Dozens of documents and message transcripts that Monica and I pore over for hours. What we find is damning. Bethany didn't act alone. She hired a consultant, someone who advertised themselves as a life coach specializing in family wealth management. But this person was actually a con artist who had run this scheme before in other cities, helping greedy children manipulate elderly parents into rewriting wills. The email correspondence between Bethany and this consultant, whose name was Marcus Petrov, lays out the entire strategy in explicit detail. Your goal is to isolate the parents emotionally from the other sibling. One email from Petrov reads, "Create documentation showing the other child's greed and neglect. It doesn't have to be real, it just has to be believable. Elderly people, especially those dealing with serious illness, are vulnerable to suggestion. Plant the seeds of doubt and water them with carefully constructed evidence." Another email shows Petrov advising Bethany to hire a private investigator to follow me, to photograph any moment that could be misconstrued, to build a narrative of neglect and deception. The beauty of this approach, Petrov wrote, is that the target never sees it coming until it's too late. By the time they realize what's happening, the will is already changed and legally binding. The emails discuss payment arrangements. Bethany paid Petrov $50,000 for his services, money she obtained from my parents under the guise of business investment needs. There are emails discussing specific conversations Petrov coached Bethany through, teaching her exactly what to say to my parents, how to frame her concerns about me in ways that would resonate with their values and fears. It was psychological warfare, professionally executed, and my parents never stood a chance. Monica files an amended complaint with this new evidence, requesting a forensic examination of my parents' mental state during the period when the will was changed. She argues that if they were being systematically manipulated by someone with expertise in this type of fraud, their capacity to make informed decisions was compromised. Bethany's lawyer, a slick attorney named Preston Burke, who wears suits that cost more than I make in a month, tries to have the evidence suppressed, arguing it's not relevant to the will's validity. But the judge allows it, and a hearing is scheduled. Meanwhile, Dorothy Palmer calls me one evening sounding excited. "I was cleaning out my garage and found something I think you need to see," she says. When I drive over, she shows me footage from her doorbell camera, files saved but never thought to review. The timestamps correspond exactly to the period when Bethany claimed she rarely visited our parents. The videos show Bethany arriving at the house multiple times each week, often accompanied by a man I don't recognize who must be Marcus Petrov. They stay for hours. The footage contradicts every statement Bethany made about her limited involvement during our parents' final year. The evidence mounts, and I can feel the momentum shifting. Then Wesley calls me late one night, his voice tense. "Bethany found out I've been helping you. She fired me today, escorted me out of the building by security like I was some kind of criminal. But I'd already copied everything we need. Every file, every email, every piece of evidence is backed up and safe." I'm horrified that Wesley lost his job because of me, but he brushes off my apologies. "Your parents were good people who deserved better than what she did to them. I'd make the same choice again." Bethany must be panicking now because she does something desperate. Her lawyer contacts Monica with a settlement offer. "She'll give me $100,000 to drop the lawsuit and sign a non-disclosure agreement preventing me from ever discussing what happened. It's a substantial amount of money, enough to restart my life." But Monica reads between the lines. She's scared. We have her backed into a corner, and she knows it. If we go to trial with this evidence, she won't just lose the inheritance battle. She could face criminal charges for fraud and elder abuse. I don't even hesitate. Tell her no. This isn't about money anymore. This is about the truth. The court date approaches, and I feel something I haven't felt in months. Not quite hope, but something close to it. A sense that maybe I'm not powerless after all. That maybe standing up for myself wasn't a mistake. I'm not the weak, bitter woman Bethany tried to paint me as. I'm a survivor who refused to accept injustice, and that realization changes something fundamental inside me. I start sleeping better. I return to work with renewed purpose. I begin to believe that regardless of the legal outcome, I've already won something important back. My self-respect. The courtroom is smaller than I expected, less dramatic than what television shows portray. But the weight of what's happening here is enormous. This is probate court, where estates are divided and family disputes are laid bare before judges who've seen every variation of greed and betrayal. Judge Patricia Holloway presides, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that miss nothing. Bethany sits at the defendant's table with Preston Burke, her posture perfect, her expression carefully neutral. She's wearing a navy suit that probably cost $3,000. Every inch the successful businesswoman. I sit with Monica, my hands clasped tight in my lap, trying to project a confidence I don't entirely feel. Monica presents our evidence methodically, building the case piece by piece. She starts with the journal, showing the dramatic shift in my mother's perception of me, and the timeline that correlates exactly with Bethany's increased visits. She brings in the medical expert we finally found, Dr. Sarah Chen, an oncologist who specializes in cancer's effects on cognitive function. Dr. Chen testifies that patients undergoing the aggressive chemotherapy my mother received often experience what's called chemo brain, a documented phenomenon that includes memory problems, confusion, and increased susceptibility to suggestion. A patient in Mrs. Mitchell's condition, Dr. Chen explains, would have diminished capacity to critically evaluate information presented to them, especially if that information came from a trusted family member. They might accept false narratives as truth simply because they lack the cognitive resources to question them. Wesley takes the stand next, his testimony detailed and damning. He walks through the financial records showing how Bethany extracted hundreds of thousands of dollars from our parents in their final years while simultaneously working to cut me out of the will. He explains the embezzlement he discovered after their deaths, the ghost employees, and falsified expenses. Preston Burke tries to shake his testimony during cross-examination, suggesting Wesley is a disgruntled former employee with an axe to grind, but Wesley remains calm and factual. I'm here because Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell trusted me with their life's work, and I owe it to their memory to tell the truth about what their daughter did. Dorothy Palmer testifies about what she observed, her elderly voice firm and clear. She describes Bethany's visits, the change in my mother's demeanor, the suspicious timing of everything. She also testifies about my devotion during my mother's illness, the countless times she saw me coming and going at all hours, always patient, always caring. That girl, Dorothy says, pointing at me, sacrificed everything for her mother. I watched her give up her own life to make sure her mother wasn't alone for a single moment of fear or pain. Then Bethany takes the stand, and I watch her perform. She's good, I'll give her that. She dabs at her eyes while talking about our parents, her voice trembling at strategic moments. She claims she had no idea they were planning to disinherit me, that she was as shocked as anyone by their decision. She frames the money they gave her as loans for business purposes that she intended to repay. She describes me as distant and cold during our mother's illness, more focused on controlling the situation than actually caring. It's all lies, polished and practiced, and for a moment I'm terrified the judge will believe her. But Monica's cross-examination is surgical. She starts by asking Bethany about her visits to the house. You testified that you saw your parents infrequently during the last year of their lives, is that correct? Bethany nods. Maybe once every few weeks. I was very busy with work. Monica pulls out still frames from Dorothy's doorbell camera. Can you explain these timestamps showing you at your parents' home 3 to 4 times per week during that period? Bethany's composure cracks slightly. I may have visited more often than I remembered. Monica presses harder. And can you explain who this man is? The one shown accompanying you on many of these visits? She displays images of Marcus Petrov. Bethany tries to deflect, claims he was a friend, but Monica produces the emails. She reads them aloud in the courtroom, every cold, calculated word of the conspiracy. Your goal is to isolate the parents emotionally from the other sibling. With each email, Bethany's mask slips further. Her face flushes red, her hands grip the witness stand. This is taken out of context, she protests. I was just trying to protect my parents from someone who was taking advantage of them. Monica shows the bank records, the proof of payment to Petrov. The timeline that makes the conspiracy undeniable. You paid this man $50,000 to help you manipulate your dying parents into disinheriting your sister. Monica states flatly. Is that protecting them? Bethany finally breaks. Her voice rises, defensive and sharp. I deserved that inheritance. I'm the one who stayed involved with the family business. I'm the one who understood what they built and wanted to preserve their legacy. Cassie abandoned all of that to play nurse. She made her choice, and I made mine. Everything I did was to ensure what should have been mine anyway wasn't diluted by someone who never cared about what actually mattered to our parents. The courtroom goes silent. Preston Burke looks like he wants to sink through the floor. Bethany realizes what she just said, how it sounds, and tries to walk it back. They wanted me to have the business. They told me so many times. But the damage is done. She admitted it, right there under oath, that she felt entitled to everything, and took deliberate action to ensure she got it. Judge Holloway calls a recess and I practically run to the courthouse hallway, needing air, needing space. That's where Bethany corners me. her face twisted with rage. "You've ruined everything," she hisses. "They wanted me to have it. They loved me more and you couldn't accept that. You had to destroy everything just because you were never good enough." I stand my ground, my voice steady. "They loved you because you manipulated them into it. You lied and cheated and stole, and now everyone knows what you really are." Bethany shoves me hard, and I stumble back against the wall. Security rushes over, pulling us apart. Bethany is screaming now, all pretense of composure gone. "You were never good enough. They never loved you like they loved me. You were always the disappointment." The courtroom reconvenes and Judge Holloway looks at both of us with an expression that suggests she's seen this exact scenario play out 100 times before. Then something unexpected happens. Uncle Raymond, my father's brother who publicly condemned me in the family chat, approaches Monica during a break. "I need to speak with Cassie," he says quietly. We step into a conference room and he looks at me with shame written across his face. "Bethany told all of us that you had substance abuse problems, that you were only helping your mother to gain access to pain medications, that you needed inheritance money to support your addiction." She was so convincing, so detailed in her stories. I believed her without question. I see now what she is. And I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. More revelations follow. Other family members, seeing the evidence presented in court, start to question the narratives they were fed, but their apologies feel hollow now, too late to undo the isolation and pain. Bethany makes one final, desperate move. She tries to file for a restraining order against me, claiming I'm harassing her, but courthouse security footage shows clearly that she instigated our confrontation. The judge not only denies the restraining order but includes Bethany's behavior in her consideration of the case. The trial portion ends and we wait for the judge's ruling, days that stretch out in agonizing uncertainty. Judge Holloway delivers her ruling on a Thursday morning. The courtroom is packed with family members, curious onlookers, and a few reporters who somehow caught wind of the dramatic case. The judge speaks for 20 minutes, summarizing the evidence and the law. And then she gets to the heart of it. This court finds clear and convincing evidence that the decedents, Gerald and Diane Mitchell, were subjected to undue influence during a period of significant physical and cognitive vulnerability. The evidence shows a systematic campaign of manipulation executed by the beneficiary Bethany Mitchell, with the assistance of a professional consultant for the express purpose of securing the entire estate for herself, while disinheriting her sister. Such conduct is unconscionable and cannot be permitted to stand. The will is declared invalid. The estate must be redistributed according to the earlier version that split everything equally between me and Bethany. Furthermore, the judge orders Bethany to return all funds embezzled from the family business, with interest. She's ordered to pay my legal fees and additional damages for the harm caused by her actions. Finally, the judge indicates she's referring the matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution for fraud, embezzlement, and elder abuse. It's more than I dared hope for. It's complete vindication. Bethany's face goes through a rapid series of emotions, shock to disbelief to pure rage. She stands up, knocking over her chair, and starts screaming about the injustice, about how the judge doesn't understand, about how this is all my fault. Preston Burke tries to quiet her, but she's beyond reason now. She storms toward me, and security has to physically restrain her as she shouts threats and accusations. She's escorted from the courtroom still yelling, and the last thing I hear is her voice echoing down the hallway. "This isn't over. I'll appeal. You'll never see a penny. But we both know it is over. The evidence is too strong. The ruling too clear." In the weeks that follow, I watch Bethany's carefully constructed life collapse. Criminal charges are filed. She's arrested, photographed in handcuffs for the local news, her face a mask of humiliation. She can't afford Preston Burke's fees anymore, so she gets a public defender. The case against her is overwhelming, and her lawyer advises her to accept a plea deal. In exchange for avoiding prison time, she pleads guilty to multiple counts of fraud, and agrees to 5 years of probation, community service, and full restitution of all stolen funds. Her luxury condo is sold to pay debts. Her car is repossessed. Her so-called friends disappear as soon as the money and prestige are gone. The extended family members who condemned me now try to reconcile. They show up at my door with apologies and excuses, claiming they were deceived, that they didn't know the truth. I listen politely and then decline their attempts at reconciliation. You showed me who you are when it mattered most, I tell Uncle Raymond when he asks for forgiveness. You didn't ask for my side of the story. You didn't give me the benefit of the doubt. You chose to believe the worst about me without question, and that's something I can't forget. It's not about holding grudges, it's about recognizing that some relationships, once broken, can't be repaired. Wesley gets his job back at the family business along with a promotion to Chief Financial Officer. He deserves it. Together, we work on restoring the company's reputation and finances, undoing the damage Bethany caused. The business survives, and even begins to thrive again, under proper management. My share of the estate, after all debts and legal fees, comes to approximately $600,000 plus 30% ownership in the family business. The first thing I do is pay off every debt I have. Medical bills from my mother's care that I'd been slowly chipping away at. The remainder of my student loans, everything. The weight of financial stress lifts for the first time in my adult life. I repay Marissa for her kindness and generosity during my darkest days. Though she protests she doesn't want anything, I insist. I establish a scholarship fund at the community college in my parents' names specifically for students who work their way through school. Students like I was, who don't have the luxury of parental support but are determined to build better lives. It feels like the right way to honor the best parts of who my parents were, separate from the manipulation that defined their final years. I return to nursing with renewed passion. My reputation at the hospital is fully restored. Patients request me again. Colleagues who doubted me apologize and welcome me back genuinely. The work that used to exhaust me now energizes me, because I'm no longer carrying the weight of family rejection and financial desperation. I use a portion of my inheritance for a down payment on a small house. Nothing extravagant. Just a cozy 2-bedroom with a yard where I can plant a garden. In the backyard, I plant roses like my mother used to grow. Pink and yellow varieties that bloom in late spring. It's my way of keeping the good memories while letting go of the pain. I start therapy. Something I should have done years ago. My therapist, a compassionate woman named Dr. Linda Reeves, helps me unpack a lifetime of scapegoating and emotional neglect. She helps me understand that being the unfavored child wasn't about my worth or value but about my parents' limitations and Bethany's manipulation. You were never the problem, Dr. Reeves tells me in one session that makes me cry with relief. You were just the one who couldn't be controlled or molded into their image. And some parents can't handle that kind of independence. The realization is freeing in ways I can't fully articulate. My personal life begins to heal too. Wesley introduces me to his nephew Marcus, who's 34 and works as an architect. We start as friends, grabbing coffee to discuss the business. And slowly it becomes something more. Marcus is kind and patient, never pushing, always respectful of my healing process. He listens to my story without judgment and shares his own experiences with family dysfunction. We build something healthy together, a relationship based on mutual respect and genuine affection rather than obligation or expectation. It's different from anything I've experienced before, and I find myself cautiously hopeful about the future. I reconnect with people who truly cared about me during my parents' lives. Dorothy becomes a grandmother figure, someone I visit weekly for tea and conversation. Father Vincent welcomes me back to church, not because I've found some renewed faith, but because the community there offers genuine warmth. Wesley becomes not just a business partner, but a true friend. In building a chosen family, people who love me for who I am, rather than what I can provide or how well I conform to their expectations. 6 months after the trial ends, I visit my parents' graves alone. I haven't been here since their funerals. Couldn't bring myself to face the complicated mess of love and hurt they left behind. But I need this closure. I stand before their headstones in the quiet cemetery and finally say what I need to say. I loved you, even when you hurt me. I gave you everything I had, all my time and energy and hope, and you threw it away because you couldn't see past your own biases. I forgive you for not seeing what was happening, for being vulnerable to manipulation when you were sick and scared. But I'm done carrying your disappointment. I'm done trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Your failure to value me was never about my worth, it was about your blindness. I plant flowers at both graves, bright yellow daisies that will bloom through summer. This is goodbye to who I was in your eyes, I whisper. I'm not that rejected daughter anymore. I'm someone who survived, who fought back, who refused to accept injustice. I hope wherever you are, you understand what she did to you, to all of us, and I hope you know that despite everything, I'm going to be okay. Better than okay, actually. I'm going to thrive. Present day finds me sitting on my porch on a Sunday morning, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise paint my neighborhood in shades of gold and pink. Marissa arrives for our weekly breakfast tradition, carrying fresh bagels and her infectious laugh. We talk about everything and nothing, work, gossip, and weekend plans and the book she thinks I should read. It's comfortable and easy, the kind of friendship that doesn't demand anything except genuine presence. As we're laughing about something trivial, I feel a moment of profound gratitude wash over me. I almost let her destroy me. I say to Marissa during a quiet moment, I almost believed I deserved nothing, that I was as worthless as they made me feel. Marissa reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. But you didn't. You fought back. You stood up for yourself when everyone told you to accept it and move on. That takes incredible strength. I nod, feeling the truth of it. The greatest inheritance I received wasn't the money or the business shares. It was learning my own worth independent of family validation, understanding that love shouldn't come with conditions or require constant proof, recognizing manipulation for what it is and refusing to accept it as normal. I've learned that sometimes the family who rejects you does you the greatest favor of all. They force you to discover that you never needed their approval to be valuable, to be worthy, to be whole. You were always enough, with or without their recognition. The validation you sought externally was inside you all along, waiting for you to claim it. I don't hate Bethany anymore, though I'll never forgive her. I pity her, actually. She destroyed relationships and committed crimes for money and property, temporary things that ultimately cost her everything that might have given her life real meaning. She won the inheritance battle but lost the war for her own soul. My phone rings and it's the hospital calling me in for a shift. Someone called out sick and they need coverage. I smile and tell them I'll be there in 30 minutes. Marissa helps me clear the breakfast dishes and hugs me goodbye. As I drive to work, the morning sun warming my face through the windshield, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Peace. Not because my life is perfect or because I've forgotten the pain, but because I've finally freed myself from the need for their love. I don't need my parents to posthumously recognize my worth. I don't need family members who only valued me when it became socially convenient. I don't need anything except to keep being myself, authentic and whole. The golden child got the inheritance, but I got something infinitely more valuable. I got freedom from a family system that would have slowly destroyed me. I got the chance to build a life based on my own values. I got to discover that I'm stronger than I ever knew. And honestly, that's priceless. Have you ever dealt with family betrayal or inheritance drama? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you handled it and what helped you heal. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about overcoming family dysfunction and finding your strength. Share this video with anyone who might be going through something similar, because sometimes just knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Thank you so much for listening to my story and for being part of this community. I wish you all healing, justice, and the courage to stand up for yourselves when it matters most. Remember, you were always enough. Take care of yourselves and each other.